Dorothy Horwitz, and I live in Manchester, and I've lived in Manchester now for 56 years. We came to Manchester from New York City. My husband and I both grew up in Brooklyn. We met at Midwood High School 4 years before Woody Allen, but we decided we were not meant for each other until our early 20s, when we did come to Connecticut. He was a resident in New Haven. I always loved language. I majored in language at Bucknell University. I got my degree there in French with English and Spanish as minors. And when we finally wound up in Manchester, Connecticut, I decided that what I would like to do is continue my French. So I went to UConn, and wonderful, wonderful graduate department in French. I took all the courses necessary. I had actually gotten my master's at Columbia beforehand, but I was continuing for the doctorate. When I got to the point where I had to study for exams, and I had to know everything that was ever written from before the 10th century until the 20th century, I decided I really did not want to spend my time memorizing titles and dates. And so somebody said, well, you know, there's a new college in Manchester Community College. And I said, what's that? And they told me that it was the first in the state of Connecticut, and it was very exciting, and that Fred Lowe was a wonderful man. I said, oh, I know Fred Lowe. I met him at a party last year. And they said, well, why don't you go talk to him? So I went up and saw Fred, and he looked at my resume, and he said, so what do you want to teach? And I said, anything. I mean, that was the chutzpah, you know. And so he, again, looked at the resume. He said, well, you know, I notice here that you taught English as a second language in Japan when we lived there for a year when my husband was in the service. And I said, yes, and I enjoyed that very much. And he said, well, how would you like to start a course here at MCC? And I said, well, gee, that sounds great. I'd really like to do that. And he said, and, you know, you have French and Spanish. He said, the French department is pretty full. He said, I said, well, I only want to teach part-time because I have 4 kids at home. And he said, well, how about teaching a Spanish course? And I said, oh, okay. He said, beginning Spanish? I said, that'll be fine. That was my second major. So he said, okay. Well, now, you know, if you teach only 2 courses, you only earn, and I can't even remember what it was per course, something like $18 a course or something like that. And he said, if you teach 4 courses, you earn $12,000 a year. And I said, $12,000 a year for teaching 4? Okay, I'll do it. So my first semester here, I started the ESL course. I taught 2 courses in Spanish and 1 course in English composition. I believe that. There may be a few mistakes along the way, but that's what my memory is. And I had a wonderful time. I loved it. The faculty, as you know, were just so great, and we had such togetherness and understanding and desire to really improve what the school would be. And so I continued on until 89. Stopping along the way, at one point, I took a leave of absence. I never took a sabbatical, but I did take a leave of absence 2 years before I quit to go to Yale, and I was in the women's study department there, and I decided I really did want to go back to my writing, so I came back to MCC, taught my last year, which was required, and then I left in 89 to do some writing, and I did writing. But the best part, of course, were the students, because they were from 18 to 80, and I had them all, as you did. And that was such a challenge, and especially when the 18-year-olds complained about the 35-year-old women who were upping the curve because they were such good students. I had one 80-year-old woman who took my beginning French class 3 times, and I said, you're good enough to go on to your second year. You know, why don't you take the second year? And she said, well, I'm so good in the first year and I can get A's. So I said, okay, it's okay with me. It's okay. She was great.
So what year was this that you first started teaching?
69.
69.
And in 69, of course, there were no
Right.
none of this was here.
Yeah.
We taught in the temporary buildings at the foot of the hill.
Right.
And right next door to my office was Bob Dobson's office.
Right.
And we were very, very close. We could hear each other. We could knock on the wall. We could stand on the desk and look over and throw spitballs down at each other. And he was a dear man. We really had a very nice relationship. And then, let's see.
So the hiring process was essentially you meeting with the president, Fred Love.
Yes,
that was it.
That was it.
Okay.
He said, sure, and he sent the papers down to the right people.
Right.
And then
All right.
I came on. So let me see, what else can I
You
tell
talked
you?
about the students, but give us some sense of your first impression, the first couple of weeks in the classroom and what it was like and being here at the college.
Okay, I think that perhaps my most vivid memory is of the English as a Second Language course, because I had 8 students from 6 different countries, including the middle European countries, including Latin America, including Hawaii, which was a foreign country to us. And I had a great time with them. It was a challenge because the boy from Spain, the 19-year-old from Spain, was probably on a 4th grade level. And we had a woman from Colombia who must have been a PhD, but they were all there to learn, to better their conversation.
Right.
And so I enjoyed that class very, very much.
Yeah.
And then the French, in those days, of course, we didn't have any computers, we didn't have any assistants, any aids that they got came from me, on a piece of paper.
Right.
And so it was quite different.
Yeah.
But I think the best students were the women who were coming back, who were in their 30s mostly, and they were driven. They had kids at home, and many of them were divorced, and they had come back to school to be able to earn a living and to improve intellectually.
Right.
They were
Right.
incredible people. And then, we talked about the faculty.
Yeah.
And you asked what names I do
Right.
remember,
Right.
and I wrote down Eleanor Coltman came to mind.
Yeah.
A sweet, dear, brilliant woman who I've never heard Eleanor raise her voice. I always remember her as smiling and contributing intellectually to the group. And when there was a conflict which there rarely were, of course, in the faculty meeting, she would get up and she would have the right answer for everyone. And then, of course, Bob Richardson, who was, for a while, my department head, and we had fun together. We always had good conversation. Bob was, I enjoyed working with Bob, and we had good conversation about literature. We had good conversation about our kids, and a few other things, too.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bob Dobson, of course, my neighbor, and Clemuel Young, one of my dearest friends, who unfortunately died. I guess she wasn't more than 70 or 71 when she died, and we had a very close relationship. She and her husband Bob and Mel and I spent a lot of time together, and I have a wonderful collection of Clem's poems, not necessarily the ones that were printed, but the ones that she gave to me personally, and I treasure those. She really was a scholar and an artist. She was a very fine person. And then Roland Chirico comes to mind, and my musician friend. And whenever you needed a horn, Roland was there, and we really had fun. I guess we met him after I stopped teaching because he was playing summer theater, I guess, and or either at the Cape or Lower Connecticut. I don't really remember now, but I do remember that we kind of ran into him, and there's Roland, and I had a good time, good musical memories.
Yeah.
And of course, Toby Tamarkin was my department head, and she and I had a good relationship. And I don't know what became of Toby. She went off to New Jersey. She is in Florida.
Yeah, married Tom Dowd, and she was in Florida.
Okay.
She's a professional boxing judge.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
She is what?
A professional boxing judge.
Boxing. Well, I don't know why I should be surprised, because every time she walked into my office, I was waiting for the next surprise.
Right.
That, she was a very versatile woman.
That's
yeah.
right.
And so, and then the last person I'm sure there are others that you will bring to my mind, but Gaston Buron. Remember Gaston Buron?
Yeah.
He was teaching French when I came here, and which is why the first few years I wasn't able to teach French, because that was his thing.
Right.
And he and I called each other for a long, long time, and I assume when I didn't hear from him anymore, he was gone.
Yeah.
But he was so much fun. And, of course, we chatted in French together, and we compared notes about our students. And he was a neat guy. So I mean, there are a few other things. What do I remember that other than the academics were the protests during the Vietnam War?
Right.
I mean, where we closed down the campus and we marched,
Yeah.
and that was a memorable time. And then, what else do you have in mind?
Any other significant events or programs that happened at MCC that you particularly remember as involving a lot of students or?
Well, I
faculty?
remember the theater,
Right.
which was, for me, it was very important. I love theater, and I remember speaking to Chuck, or is it Charles now? It was always Chuck. But anyway, we talked about theater and what he might be doing, and what did I think of it, and he respected my theatrical opinion, and that was kind of fun, because I was always very, very close to theater. And I don't know whether I ever gave you any of her plays or not, but my college roommate and dearest friend, who unfortunately died last year, was a playwright. And I think I did give you a few of her plays to look at to see if you wanted to do them. She did mostly one-actors. And she had about 28 plays published over the years and all over the world. So, but the theater was a very special part. And I think that considering the everything that we had to do in those days and the limitations, Chuck did a wonderful job with that theater. It was fun.
How about your image of the college in general, and a little bit of a comparison between how things started and where you think we are today?
Well, my only contact today really is, as I told you, in the tutoring area. I have been tutoring English as a second language just this semester really. And there are 450 foreign students studying ESL now. There were 8 when I was here. So I guess it's a matter of size, although even back then we were the largest, I believe the largest community college in the state. And so now I assume that we continued to be the largest community college in the state.
Right.
And how I compare it, well, of course, I get lost in the buildings. And in the old buildings, when it rained, it leaked.
Right.
And it was very very family-like,
Right.
and because it was so small, and you could hear the person
Right.
teaching in the next room, and people did fill in for one another very, very easily. I don't know what it would be like to teach here today.
Those walls, if I remember, I didn't go up all the way to the ceiling.
No.
That's why you could look over. And,
Right, in the offices
Yeah.
anyway. Yeah.
Right, in the office.
Yeah, right. But no, I don't know what the student population is today, because just being restricted to the ESL course, the ones in my class range in age from 21 to about 50, which was about what it was back then, the majority. So that if I can judge by my small 8 to 10 number class now,
Right.
out of the 450 foreign students, they are just as devoted and as enthusiastic,
Right.
and as I feel grateful for being able to be here. This is my feeling about. So
Right.
that I don't think has changed. And again, I have a very limited
Yeah.
group of students to judge by, but I have the sense that even just walking through the halls, there seems to be an enthusiasm.
Right.
And boy, am I lucky to be here, kind of thing,
Yeah.
which is as it should be, I think, in a community college.
And Hussein was here last year, I guess, and
Right.
talked about how she segued into ESL. And
Yes.
So there was a time you were taking your leave of absence.
Right, that's right.
Now, is she now your boss or somebody else?
I guess she's officially my boss, but there's some other woman there. But we don't. I just saw her for the first day, and we chatted and kind of did a few memories together. But no, she seems to be doing a very good job to be able to manage this larger program. And I'm sure the diverse, probably from about 20 different countries now, rather than just 6 foreign students. Yeah.
Any funny memories that you can share with us?
Oh,
Things that
they're all
happened
funny.
unusual, either in the classroom or outside
Oh
the classroom.
my gosh. Let's see. Funny memories.
Even faculty meetings, if there were some funny things that happened, you can
But
recall.
it seems to me the faculty meetings were always lively, and I can't remember anything specific about anybody tripping or anything like that. I probably, when I leave, will come up with a few. But no, I hadn't thought about that. But the spirit was there all the time. There was just, I mean, sad things happened, and we counseled each other, but mostly it was just good fun. I mean, I think the people there was a spirit, there was a sense of, we are lucky to be here. We are lucky that this college was created. And Fred Lowe, I mean, I don't know how other people felt about him, but I had a very special attachment. I thought he did a very good job, and very difficult circumstances, because this was new. The whole concept was so new that I think we were lucky to have had him when we did.
One of the recurring themes that we seem to get from people is that, especially in the earlier years, when facilities were really terrible compared to what we have now, how people still overcame all those obstacles, worked together. This kind of spirit that you're talking of. So, if anything else that you want to comment on that, how strong that feeling was, that's important.
How strong that feeling was. Well, I think I've said it quite a bit, but if I had, for example, if at the last minute I couldn't teach a class, I'd call somebody in the biology department, and they'd come over and teach my English class. I mean, why not? Now, I don't think I could have done as well in the biology department if they'd asked me to fill in, but I certainly would have. And so there was that spirit, and I'm sure it's still here now. I think there's something about teachers. And most of the time. I mean, there are a few sourpusses, but no, I think we were really very fortunate. And as I say, that when I think of our department, when I think of the English department, foreign language, we were all kind of bunched together in those days, and it was just a great group, and we shared with each other. We were devoted to each other, and I think we felt the same way about the students, and for the most part, they felt that way about us.